All right. I think I am live. We will see, right? Hopefully you can hear me. All right. So, what I wanted to talk about today was you guys not going crazy. A lot of taper craziness happening right now by the looks of things over the weekend. As you saw, I posted an article earlier this morning. The last 4 to 6 weeks of your training segment. I think that'd be a big help to many of you. Hopefully, answer some of your questions. I know that there's probably a lot more questions out there. But I would take a look at that for sure. I think it is a podcast as well, so you should be able to listen to it instead of reading it as well, whatever your preference is. So I do have some other articles I'll probably try sharing throughout the week as well as we're getting into. We're 2 weeks out from Berlin, and then that really kicks a lot of stuff off. We had the last chance Boston qualifiers this past weekend with races like Erie. So a lot of things starting to go right now. There's some other things I wanted to talk about though, and as much as I'm posting this to social media, but I think a lot of you need to be really careful with social media right now. If you follow track and field a lot, or any of the other the world majors, anything like that, with a lot of professional athletes, you'll notice a lot of those runners kind of shut down the social media the last few weeks. They don't really want to see a lot that's going on. Sometimes not seeing that stuff, it makes you better off, right? For one, some of you are asking a fair amount of questions particular to your situation, and you're getting a lot of responses, right? And so I think that you should probably be a little careful on that, right? Because you're going to get that whole spectrum of responses, right? And so you're going to get things you don't like, you're going to get things you do like, and a lot of times you're just left wondering if you made the right decision. So my advice would be to, if you have a coach, talk to that coach. If you have trusted people, talk to those trusted people. If you want our opinion, we can certainly give you that opinion if you want to do a consultation. But I think, for one, like, if you have somebody that can look over your logs, because a lot of times we're just taking a look at a very small portion of what's actually going on, right? So you might want somebody to actually kind of look at what you're doing. And this isn't necessarily an invitation to have us do a consultation, because I'll be honest with you, we're pretty busy right now. I don't know if it would be the best, but I'm just saying, like, if you have trusted people, you have a run group that you're with, people who see you on a regular basis, whatever the case is, that might be where you focus that attention, right? I think you can ask those questions here for sure, but you're going to get a lot of responses, and I don't want you to be left like, oh my God, am I making the right choice? And all honesty, sometimes the best decision is just making a decision, right? And so you have to just go with it. And then if you're second guessing that, sometimes that's not very good. Well, that's never really ever very good if you're second guessing yourself. So just be careful with that. The other thing I would say is, as far as what I was talking about with the snapshot, sometimes we're seeing a lot of people who are saying, oh, they're crushing these workouts, on and on, which is great, right? I know, you're looking for that affirmation. Maybe you don't really get that outside of the group, and that's fine. But if you're a person who's seeing that and then questioning your own ability, that might be another reason to just shut that down, right? Because we don't know their whole story either, right? Like, they might be crushing that workout, but they might get to race day and not have it go very well. So I'll be honest with you, like, I've said this many times on here, is like, usually the athletes I work with that I'm most worried about are the athletes who've had nothing go wrong, right? Because the way I view it, something's always going to go wrong. And when you get to the end of the segment, you're left at the most crucial time something can go wrong, whether it being the taper or on the race day itself. And so that's not necessarily a great situation to be in either, right? If something can probably go wrong, and if nothing has gone wrong, you don't necessarily know how you're going to react to it, right? And so if you've already had things go wrong and you've bounced back and you've adjusted and you've made it work, then you're a lot more likely to roll with things, right? Like, if something happens on a race day, you're like, oh, I've been here before, it's like, I'm just going to slow down, or I'm just going to make sure I get my gels in, or whatever the case is. You know how to work through these problems on race day because you've already done it. And truth be told, you don't have to hit every workout. You don't have to make sure every workout's in. Like if you get, 80+% of the stuff in over the course of an 18-week period of time, that's pretty good, right? Like that's still pretty consistent. Now, some of you, right, you've missed a lot of time. You've had a lot of things not go your way. Like I've seen people they've been sick and then they got hurt. They had all these little breakups all along the course. And it's definitely probably set you back. So I don't want to sugarcoat it either, right? If you've missed a lot of time and you've missed a lot of workouts, yeah, you probably need to adjust. And it's good that you're recognizing that. And I think the best thing you can do is just see where you're at and make those adjustments down. You can still have a great race and you still might surprise yourself. Maybe adjusting now and going into it a little bit cautious is actually the best thing for you, right? Because maybe it saves you from going out too hard. And then you get 15, 16 miles in the race, you're like, wow, this isn't actually as bad as I thought it was going to be. That's the best time to feel pretty decent, right? Like you can still make a lot of things happen, right? And you can still come pretty close to what you originally wanted to do, or you're well within your expectations, and you don't find yourself considering a race a failure when you actually did everything you could to make it a good race, right? So you just have to keep those things in perspective. So at the end of the day, just keep the social media stuff in perspective, right? Don't dwell on what other people are doing. And don't, opinions are like elbows and everybody's got one, right? So just take that with a grain of salt. You know your situation best. Maybe somebody offers some pretty good advice that fits your situation. That's one thing. But don't get tied into what a bunch of people are trying to tell you to do. Like, you should know yourself best. And if not, find people who can give you solid advice that see you on a regular basis and know what your training looks like, right? So that would be my best advice on that. The third thing I had written here, and we kind of just touched on that. So if you've done relatively well with the training, meaning, yeah, you've got cumulative fatigue, but your workouts are still going all right. Maybe maybe you adjusted during the heat and humidity, and now you're finding yourself and that you're able to kind of get away from that and get closer to what your original goal paces were. But you're still tired, right? You're tired from marathon training. If you're in that boat, stick to the taper. I'm just gonna make that executive decision for you. Like, just stick to the taper, right? I understand that some people need more taper, some people need less taper, but for the vast majority of people, this works very, very well, right? So just, coach is telling you, just stick to the plan. If you want to blame somebody, blame me. If it doesn't go right, people usually do anyway, right? So I'm used to it. I've been doing it for a long time. So, okay, I'll take the heat for that. But to be honest with you, right? So the biggest mistake I see with people is they taper way too hard. They'll taper 3 or 4 weeks, or they'll just cut everything by 50, 75%. And they're just so sluggish by the time the race comes around that they're just done, right? They've already, like, to me, when a person is at that point where they have to cut the taper so much, they're already cooked, right? Because they've already put their sights on the taper. They haven't really, like, to them, the race is an afterthought, right? And that's probably the poor choice of words, but you know what I mean? Like, they've made it to the taper, so that's where they needed to make it to, right? To extend that another 10 days to 2 weeks, it's too much. They've already they're mentally done, right? And so that's why, one of the biggest reasons why I don't want you to, if you're in that routine and you're still doing the same thing that you've been doing every day, your eyes are on that goal race, not just getting it to the taper, right? Your eyes are, boom, that's where your end focus should be and will be with the way the taper is set up, right? And to be honest, like I said before, when people cut everything out, physiologically, they just, I just think it sets you up, right? It sets you up, I think, more to get sick. I think it sets you up more to just kind of mentally check out and just be like, okay, I'm tapered. The race might as well have been the first day of your taper. So I just think there's more harm to good with really cutting it if you've handled it well. If you haven't handled it well and you are definitely overtrained, maybe you didn't adjust your paces over the summer and you completely cooked yourself, then yeah, you've got to do everything you can to make sure that you get to the starting line to have a good race. And so if that means scaling things back the week before the race, instead of doing the 10-mile tempo, the strength workout, all that stuff, maybe you do scale that back, and then maybe you push it back into that 3 weeks out to really give yourself an opportunity to get out of that hole. Yeah, I'm not going to sit there and tell you don't do it. Like I said, like I just talked about with the last situation, you know your body best, right? And if you know you're overtrained and you really overdid it. And you see that a lot with people who've done the plan the first time, right? Like they might have been overzealous in the beginning. It was easy until it wasn't, and then it got really hard, and they still tried to push through, and they made the most of it. But they got to 4 or 5 weeks out, and they're cooked, right? So if you're in that situation, yes, you should probably scale the taper back a little bit more. At least cut that second week back before the race out, and then maybe even push that out into a third week, right? Maybe you do that, because at that point your biggest priority's got to be able to get to the starting line in one piece, feeling somewhat okay, and at least on the upswing of how you're feeling, right? If you're still on the downswing of things and you're already feeling bad, it's probably not going to go very well, right? So, but in terms of that, what I would say is keep your frequency, just back the intensity off a little bit, and just back the percentage that you're doing off a little bit. That if you only do a long run and a marathon pace workout a week for the 2 weeks, week 1 and week 2, with week 0 being the week of the race, that's fine, right? Like that, to me, that's fine, right? You just got to keep a little bit of semblance of what your training looked like, scale it back, keep the paces there, but just back the volume off a little bit more, because that's, like I said, but when you cut everything back, when you cut volume and intensity way back, and I'll see this for easy runs too. I saw somebody's post on there, they're running like, I think their goal pace was like 10 minutes for the marathon, and they're scaling their easy runs back to like 12 and a half minutes. That's too much. And then they said they got an ankle injury. And honestly, when I looked at that made a lot more sense why they had an ankle injury, because their form's all, it's not a natural form at this point. It's probably more of a controlled shuffle almost, right? Like you're almost trying to get between a walk and a run. And so you want to keep things natural, and you don't want to back everything off so much that you just, at least you're not changing your form. You're not cutting everything back so much that you're gonna be so sluggish that you're not gonna perform well. All right, so next thing, if you bought a plan from me and you had access to the Run Club Lite for 6 months and you didn't use it, shame on you. In the first day of that plan is a code to get 6 months of the Run Club for free. And that's the one reason, I'll go on a tangent here, that's the one reason I don't like doing the PDFs, because people will just take the PDFs and there's so much more information in the actual plan at Final Surge. And I think a lot of people miss out on stuff that they have access to. So if you don't, but you still have time, right? And I have a lot of courses on there on my site in the Run Club Lite version. A lot of mini courses, like there's one on tapering, there's one on performance nutrition, stuff like that. Use your code. You'll still have the 6 months. You can take advantage of that, and then watch those videos. I tried to set them up. The one I just did on the race day nutrition was a little long, but it's a lot of information. So you still have time to get some of that information. And we talk about tapering, all that stuff. You just have to watch the lessons you want. You don't have to watch the whole course. Find what you're looking for and take those. And then just some advice here. Don't dwell on what you should have done or what you shouldn't have done. There's nothing you can do about that at this point, right? So, if you want to think about it after the race, and think about it how you can fix those things in the next time forward. But if you dwell on it now, it's just going to eat away at you, and there's nothing you can do about it. And you can still have a great race, even if you missed some stuff or you were a little overzealous. We can still make it work, right? So just take an honest assessment of where you're at now and develop a plan that's going to help you get the most out of the race that you can at your current state, right? That's the best you can do. And like I said before, you might surprise yourself. So, but the more you dwell on stuff about coulda, shoulda, wouldas, it's not healthy, and it's not going to help you at all, right? So just put that, instead of focusing on that stuff, put your focus on where you're at now, developing a plan to maximize where you're at now. And that's the best thing that you could possibly do. Focus on what you can focus on, not all those other things. I can't read my own writing. So I see a lot of people getting a break in the weather and seeing a true glimpse of where their fitness really is, which is great to see. I think that's a good thing, and hopefully the rest of you will get at least one of those workouts where it's a nice day and you all of a sudden are 30 seconds a mile faster than what you've been on your tempo runs, and all of a sudden you're where you should be. It's not like that fitness was never there. It's just you've got to look at it like you were being suppressed by the weather a little bit, and you were doing what you could, but it's not ideal conditions. And so, that's the one thing I worked on a ton with my athletes this summer, was just getting them to adjust. And knock on wood, most of them are very healthy right now. One athlete just raced in UP in the marathon and did very well. And I think is actually recovered very well, and is going to do New York here in a couple months. Has some big goals, and I think just stuff like that, right? Has to, the strength and the recovery that you're going to have from this is great, and your fitness is there, and I hope you all get pretty decent days to run. But even if you don't, you're going to be a lot stronger than you think, and hopefully, if you're in a position where you still have 6-8 weeks to go before a marathon, and you're still really in that heat kind of area. Like we're starting to break a little bit. The leaves are actually starting to turn. There's a little bit more of a crispness in the air, but it's still super humid, right? And so it's still not ideal, right? And so times are coming down a little bit, but they're still, like I did a long run yesterday, and it was still drenched city, right? And so definitely still lingering, but you still might need to adjust a little bit if you have that time. But if you don't, and you're in that taper, your fitness is there. Just focus on being healthy. Focus on what you need to do to get to the race in one piece. Like I just talked to, I think somebody just asked a question, is either on my site or on here in the group. But, honestly, like if you're 2 weeks into before a race, your fitness is there or it's not. There's not a lot you can do either way that's going to improve or take away from that fitness. You just have to be feeling good, and you have to just be ready to run the best that you can on race day. So I just wanted to address some of those things. I saw it because there's a lot of posts this weekend, and it was like, oh gosh, we're at that time, right? And so I figured I'd just come on here. I don't answer a lot of those questions. Some of them are asking for very specific information. I just don't like doing that, because it's like I said, you have a snapshot. You'd have to there's not an answer I could give without asking a lot more questions, right? And so I think if you really want to go that route and do a consultation, we have several coaches that could definitely help you with that, but I'm not, whatever you want to do. But yeah, so we're at that time for sure. And so I just felt like I'd come on here and address that right away, and maybe give you some things to think about as you approach into race day. But it is nice to see racing going on. I ran through, there's a park by me where the two local high schools actually do their cross-country meets, and it was all marked up. And I was like, yeah, I wish, to be back in that stage of life would be fun. And so hopefully my daughter wants to run a cross-country race, so we'll see what happens. She's in 5th grade and does about 0 running. She's all swim, all volleyball right now, so we'll see what happens. But anyway, it is a fun time of year, and that's the big thing. I'll just close with that too. It's fun, right? This is supposed to be fun. Training, not so much fun, but the reward is you get to race. You get to go to these cool places, see big cities, all this stuff. You get to see what you're capable of. And that's what that's one thing I truly loved when I was at my most competitive. It was like you just get to see what you're capable of doing, and that should be fun, right? Like it's going to hurt in a moment, but at the end of the day, it's fun, and it's a challenge we should all kind of relish it too, right? See because we're capable of so much more than what we really think we are. All right, so that's what I'll close on. The last thing I will say, though, is it is the start of the Boston Marathon registration. So I will make one plug for something. If you are in Boston, you registered for Boston, you're fairly confident you're going to get in. Code Boston22. It's all one word. I think it's all capital too. It'll work either way. Boston22. It's either all capital or all lowercase. Tim from Final Surge made it for me. So go to Final Surge. Go to my plans, and 25% off all the Boston plans now through the end of September. So you can wait and see if you get in. Hopefully before the end of September, right? So I think it's not too long that they do the registration. So 25% off all Boston plans. We have a ton on there now. If you're not sure which one you want, don't hesitate to ask. If you get the wrong one and you want to switch it out, we can switch it out for you too. So don't worry about that either. But Boston22 at finalsurge.com will work on all of my Boston Marathon plans. So make sure you get one. It's probably probably one of our biggest ones we sell actually for training plans. So all right, have a great rest of your week. If I don't talk to you, I'm sure I will before probably not in a live video, but sometime, some fashion. We'll be talking. All right. Take care, everybody. I'll see you later.